We hope it's warmer where our insider is. Let's head to the hotline for Crystal Waters. It's our insider from TSN, Darren Dreger.
Got a pseudo.
He's looking very fancy. Dreg, you off to speak at the local legislator. What are you doing here?
Yeah, sadly, this segment has to be cut short a little bit. I do have a TV assignment that I have to do.
Right.
And, the luxuries of modern technology, I'll be doing it from the same chair that I'm sitting in for this. So literally what I'm not even going to put a tie on for national TV.
Well, I got to tell you right now that you look sharp. You don't have to change a damn thing, Drake.
No, so dress up with his leather vest.
Yeah. We're at the motorcycle show here, Dregs.
I like it.
I don't know that you'd fit in here. You might get beaten up and your wallet stolen. But
hey, I still have my leather chaps on, though. That you're just seeing.
We don't see the bottom.
Yeah.
So a wild 24 hours. Obviously, Calgary front and center with the Flames Flyers swap. Tell us what you know about how the deal came to be, and then just your takeaways for both the Flyers and the Flames.
Well, it's one of those rare ones. So as you guys know, we do insider trading on TSN every Tuesday and Thursday. And just weirdly, I communicated with both Calgary and Philadelphia yesterday morning. Wasn't anything going on. And in fact, both management groups said, you know what, it might take until literally up to the start of the Four Nations or beyond that for the market to shift a little bit. So now in follow-up, I think what happened was obviously there was communication between Craig Conroy and Danny Briere. A deal of this significance doesn't just fall in your lap.
Right.
But I think one side started to get a little bit more anxious, or there was a little bit more flexibility. I'm not sure which side that was, to push it forward in some degree. And then it just started to evolve as the afternoon went on. A Flame source told me a short while ago, they really didn't get into the nuts and bolts of it until about 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So then that explains why, it didn't happen basically until the conclusion of both games, even though it was being widely reported on and the players were articulated on. So my thoughts on the trade, I think the Calgary Flames did exceptionally well on this. I really do. I look at Morgan Frost, who I've got a fun little side story I'll tell you in a second about. I think he's looking for more opportunity, maybe a fresh start. John Tortorella isn't for everybody. And I'm not saying that Morgan Frost didn't appreciate the teachings and the coaching of Tortorella. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. It's just, I think that Morgan Frost has more to give. We have not seen the top end of his game yet. So he's got more opportunity, I think, in Calgary. And sure, that comes with a little bit of risk. I think the Flyers had him pegged at around $4 million as a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And that may not seem like a ton, again, for a player of this ilk. But for the Philadelphia Flyers, that's a team that's trying to create more cap space because they want to get to a place where they can be big game hunters again. And that's in the not too distant future, maybe as early as the offseason. And then you look at Joel Farabee, again, a real good piece. Nice ad by the Calgary Flames, but that contract for what Philadelphia is trying to do is prohibitive. And it kind of gets in the way. And because of that money, because of the deal, believe it or not, there wasn't a ton of interest in Farabee on the trade market beyond what we saw in Calgary. So now let's flip it and go back to, okay, why Philadelphia? There is a historical relationship between Matvei Mishkov and Andrei Kuzmenko. And that should help the kid in Philadelphia. Kuzmenko isn't a soft player, so he should be okay with working in the environment of John Tortorella. Let's see how that plays out. In Pelche, that's interesting. I know the Philadelphia Brass and Jones and Briere speak highly of him. Again, opportunity expectation is what it is. But where the Philadelphia Flyers are trying to get to, I think they feel like they did okay. But if I had to grade this trade, I would grade it heavily in favor of the Calgary Flames. So now real quickly back to my and Rhett, you'll get a chuckle out of this because this is one of my hockey dad stories. So my son was drafted by the Sioux Greyhounds. He goes to training camp. I don't know how he did it, but he managed to make his way through training camp, even though, he's a good student. So he thought, well, if I'm ever going to do anything in hockey, I'll probably opt for the college side rather than major junior. As it turned out, he didn't play either. So there you go. Anyway, that first training camp, he gets to the red-white game, which is a big game. Like major junior, man, that's your big exhibition. The building's full. He's on a line with Morgan Frost and Boris Kachuk. And I don't know, it was early in the first period. Morgan wins the draw, gets it to my kid who's on the right wing. And I think it was just through fear alone. He just swings and fires a seam pass up the middle, tape to Boris, who goes in on the breakaway and scores. So you've got me giggling in the background. Yeah, me giggling in the background as they announce goal scored, or red goal scored by number whatever, Boris Kachuk, the assist to Mason Dreger and Morgan Frost. So I said to Darren Ferris, who represents Frost last night when the deal came down, I said, I don't care whatever happens for the rest of Morgan's career. I'm always going to have a soft spot for that kid for that one play. So there's my personal twist on Morgan Frost.
So do you know him at all personally?
Yeah, I mean, I know his dad, Andy. Andy is a legendary radio voice in the Toronto market. But look, I'm sure everybody's had these experiences if you've been in that level of hockey. In the present time when my son was going through those camps, and then for a couple of years after, while Morgan was playing in Philadelphia, he'd still reach out to Mason Dreger, and he had no reason to. I mean, this kid isn't playing major junior. He's trying to meddle his way through other levels of junior hockey and whatnot. But that's kind of character that the Calgary Flames are getting. Terrific leader back in that day. So he's got those qualities. And I think he's got a lot more to show. And I'm hoping that he does everything that I've talked about here with a Flames uniform.
Do you criticize? I mean, we're Flames radio, or talk about the Flames, talk about. Is the feel in Philadelphia a criticism of this trade, would you think? Or like we're all saying it's a good trade for the Flames, makes lots of sense.
Yeah.
Or does the fan base understand what Briere's trying to do there?
I think so, but I think in appreciation of that fan base, that's why they're doing it. This is recognition by Philadelphia brass. And that, a big part of that, of course, is Danny Briere as general manager, but recognition that the time is coming close where they've got to give Philadelphia fans something to look forward to. Yeah. And it's more than just the promise of how this player is going to turn out or this deal or any of that. No. Like that Philadelphia fan base, as you see in the National Football League with the Eagles and everything that's gone on there historically with the Flyers, man, woo. I mean, they love their winning franchises as much or more than any team on the continent, just flat out, period. So they're realizing that they're going to have to move quicker than maybe they were expecting to. So I think that message has been conveyed. And in fairness, I haven't scoured all the media. I'm sure that there are opinionists and columnists in Philadelphia that take issue specifically with the return on this trade. But when you marry it with what I said and the motivation behind it, then it does make sense.
Yeah, this is a fresh start of sorts.
Is Philly still... Like when I played there, they were really good. Lindros and Flyer. Is Philly still a destination for free agents? Do you know what I mean? If they're clearing cap space, are they going to go after some free agents? Is this a spot that players want to go?
I think it is, Rhett, because again, there is the history that goes along with the Philadelphia Flyers. And, maybe this is an unfair comparison, but I think of Montreal. And the history is that much deeper in Montreal. But, the Montreal Canadiens are out kicking their coverage. Maybe not so much as of late. They've had a couple of stumbles here. But the stretch, the body of the work of the month of January has been pretty good. And you can see the work that's been put in Montreal. And because of the fan base and everything that is the Montreal Canadiens, you got to pay. I mean, you gotta be okay to dive into that open market and pay market value. But I think that is also applied to Philadelphia. There's just something about that jersey, about that logo. Hey, Bobby Clark comes into the room. I mean, the history of the Philadelphia Flyers, the Broad Street Bullies. I mean, I don't think that there'd be too many free agents aside from the obvious. that would look at Philadelphia and go, okay, I like the direction that you're going, but you're not there yet. So it probably depends on the age of the player we're talking about, but I don't think they're that far removed from being a destination of choice.
And when we look at Calgary now, I think it's fair to say that they've outperformed a lot of external expectations this season. Last night, Craig Conroy said this team earned that shot in the arm by bringing in these new guys. Do you get a sense that he's done making moves yet?
No. It's interesting. You dabble at center ice with this trade, but it depends on what else is going to be available between now and March 7th. But I do think that this does represent an acknowledgement that this group deserves a little bit more of a pop. And they're going to get that in these two players. These players have the potential to be impact guys. What I know is there is no interest in, and I don't want to use the term tearing it down because that's pretty obvious. They're not going to do that. But I know that teams continually call on some of their bigger pieces, like Nazem Kadri. And in fact, I was digging on this yesterday morning, again, somewhat coincidentally, which was part of my investigating of what Calgary might be up to. And the message that I got back was, no, we're not doing that. I mean, he's having a great year. He's such a key part of what is going on this year and probably moving forward. Let's see what he looks like next season, that sort of thing. But I'm sure that teams call all the time, right? Why wouldn't you? If you ever get to a place where you're willing to move player X, let me know, because I'd like to be one of those clubs, one of those general managers that's in a position to make that offer. So they're not having those conversations at all. And even including something like a Jacob Pelche. Now, you guys have probably talked about this player enough over the last few seasons, right? And what the expectation was. But that wouldn't have been an easy inclusion for Conroy and the Calgary Flames, to be fair here. And that you have to include them because of what you're getting back in return. So I don't want Flames fans to underestimate the potential of this deal. But I use that word appropriately, potential, because I'm not sitting here saying that Joel Farabee and Morgan Frost are coming in and the Calgary Flames are a lock to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that Calgary is a better team today with those two men available than they were before this trade was made.
Give us more on Farabee. I know you guys at TSN do the World Championships. It sounded like you had a phenomenal tournament there last summer.
Yeah. I mean, just lots of energy. He plays the game the right way. I mean, you don't command or earn a contract like the one he has, simply because you had one good year or there's possibility there's intrigue and all that. No, he's proven that he can be a real effective player. But again, effective to the point where he's going to earn the value of his contract and beyond. Well, that's the hope. That's the expectation. I think, look, I talked to somebody high ranking with the Flyers late last night. And I'm going to repeat myself here. They did not want to have to move Joel Farabee. They did not. Morgan Frost is a little bit different because every team slots their players. When you're going into free agency, in this case, restricted free agency, you have to have the stomach for what you're willing to pay that guy and where he slots. And again, I'll remind you that this is a team that's hoping to be a big spender in the not too distant future and lure those bigger players in. Well, you can't do that when you're paying a player like Morgan Frost upwards of $4 million and you just don't have them in that position. They didn't want to have to move Farabee, but they felt like given that contract and again, what they're trying to do, they had to do it.
Great stuff on the trade. Are you expecting more action before Four Nations? I know we only got a few minutes with you left, but we've just seen the Ranton and Natchez Blockbuster. Now this, I mean, this is a nice little bit of momentum for a time of year where we're usually begging for deals. Yeah,
and you know what? A week or so ago, certainly going into the Rantanen trade, I felt like it was still, aside from the Vancouver stuff, it was going to be relatively quiet. Nobody had Mikko Rantanen on the lot. Nobody, zero people were talking in media about, which, by the way, fellas, and I'm not going to be critical of management, but it is curious when you've got a foundational proven Stanley Cup piece like Mikko Rantanen, why weren't we talking about this prior to that trade? Like, Why was it Carolina or bust for Mikko Rantanen? Imagine, like, I don't know, like if I'm a team with another pending top unrestricted free agent, or I'm a contending team or whatever, how do you know that team isn't willing to tear apart a chunk of their roster with the possibility of adding a piece like Mikko Rantanen? And if you get to that place where you have the essence of a deal, and all you got to do is call the agent and say, we're interested in making this trade, but we're in a position to sweeten it if we can assure a contract extension. What does that look like? I don't think that happened. In fact, I know it didn't. It didn't happen widespread. And as soon as I heard that, you know what I thought of? Joe Thornton, when he got traded by Mike O'Connell and the Boston Bruins to San Jose, and the criticism of Mike O'Connell at that time was, well, if we'd known that Thornton was available, man, we'd have put a package together.
It was enough here. Same
there's
thing.
been trades like that. And it feels like when you're trading those big name guys, it's almost like you're trying to be sneaky about it. And I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it either.
So but you're taking less in return in theory, right?
Yeah. Anyway, to wrap up with your question, a firmer answer. I didn't expect that last week. So as I was sifting through, all the speculation in Philadelphia and Calgary before the trade was made official, as we were pecking away, obviously I bring Vancouver in the mix because early in my investigation, I knew that it was a bigger trade than simply Kuzmenko for, say, Morgan Frost, because I also knew that Morgan Frost was dinged up. That's why I left the game. Okay. So I messaged some good sources in Vancouver, and the message that I got back last night was, well, man, it was a busy day. There's a lot going on. I thought we were close, but at this point in the evening, it doesn't seem like anything is going to happen. So that Vancouver saga definitely has a feel of something before the start of the Four Nations.
Have a great day. Enjoy your TV hit. I know you'll be thinking about us, but do your best to stay focused. All right.
All right, fellas. And the lovely ladies. Yes. Thank you.
One and only.
Darren Dreger on our Insider Hotline for Crystal Waters. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.